Today's daf is daf Samach Aleph. We're going to begin Samach Hamad Beis by the Mishnah. Zog the Heilige Mishnah. Amanash Yishli Beis Kor Offer. Person who says to a woman, "You're mikudeshes to me on condition that I have a land, a base core." So the halacha is harizu mikudeshes v'yeshli. If Hitaka has it, then she's mikudeshes. Amnas sheishli b'makom pleni. If he said to her that that on the condition that I possess land in such and such place, so the halacha is im yeshli b'beis makom. If he has in that place, then mikudeshes, she's mikudeshes. V'im lav, and if not, any mikudeshes, she's not. Amnas arich base core offer on condition that I will show you a base core on earth. So harizu mikudeshes v'yareno. She's mikudeshes, and he has to show it to her. And if he shows her in the valley a field that does not belong to him, amongst other things, then she's not mikudeshes. Now, with regard to the statement of the Mishnah that she's mikudeshes only if he actually possesses a base core, the Gemara says, "V'neicha shema yeshlei." Now, let us be concerned that perhaps he, in fact, has a land of that size. Why does the Mishnah say only if he actually possesses it? Another thing is, Tanya, we learned in a brisa, Chashin Shem Yeshlei. The brisa clearly says that we are chayshish that he has. So the answer is Holei Kash. It's not a question. It depends. The one in the Mishnah is referring to a definite Kidushin, which has not yet been established because he has not proven he owns a field. And the case of the brisa is referring to an uncertain Kidushin. When I ask, why does the Mishnah need to teach me the halacha with regards to land? And why do I also need the previous Mishnah to teach me the same halacha with regards to money? There's no clear difference between the two cases. So the Gemara says, you need to teach me both cases. If it would only tell me in regards to the money case, so I would have said that it's only in that case that it is a suffix whether she's mikudeshes or not. Why? Because people tend to hide their money, and therefore his financial status might not be well known. Avlara by real estate, Ema idisle ara kala isle. I would say that if Itaka has the land, then it would be public knowledge. Kamashalan. And therefore it teaches us that it's also possible for him to own land without being aware of it. The Mishnah says, if a person says to a woman, "You are mikudeshes to me on condition that I possess land in such and such place," so if he possesses land in that place, she's mikudeshes. If not, not. So now the Gemara questions the need for the ruling. For the Gemara Pshita, it's obvious that if he does not possess the land in that place, she's not mikudeshes, as that was precisely his condition. So my answer is, Madatem, you would think, Omar lo, my nafkalamino, that maybe I'm going to say, what difference does it make to you whether the field is in that location or elsewhere? Ano tachano maiseno. Even if it's a far away, I'll go to the trouble of bringing you the produce from the field to your house, so you have no loss. Mashallah, I don't say that. Why? Despite the fact, because it's failure to fulfill his condition. I say that it's not mikudeshes because it's failure to fulfill the condition. The Mishnah says, "Amanash arich base core offer," on condition that I will show you a base core offer. Tana was taught. The woman intended to see only his own land. Talking about where he maintains the field as a sharecropper. He owns a share of it. Nevertheless, as the land does not belong to him, she did not have this field in mind, and she's not mikudeshes. The Gemara says, "Gabi hektish tanam," in regards to hektish. A makdish sadeh b'shas hayevel, a person who's makdish his field during the time of yevel. In the time of yevel observed, if he wishes to redeem it from the gizbar, he gives 50 silver shekels for an area that yields a quart of barley seed. Now, if the field had deep, like crevices and surfaces 10 tefachim deep or boulders 10 tefachim high, they are not measured with it. The calculation of the land that requires redemption, because it began less than they are measured. But we asked, Granted that these areas are not consecrated together with the field, as they are 10 tefachim higher or lower than the rest of the field, but let the crevices and boundary and boulders be makdish by themselves, so that they should require their own redemption of 50 silver shekels per base cart. And if you're going to say, Kama delay have a base cart lechashiv, if you're going to say that as long as the area does not amount to a base cart, it's not important, I'm going to ask you a contradiction against the claim for a brisa. Sadam al tam lamer. What is the meaning of the pasuk? Since it says the sowing of a chemer of barley shall be valued at 50 shekel, I have only that this Allah applies to the one who was magdish in this manner. It's magdish an area fit to sow a chemer of barley. All these measurements. Now, therefore, the Gemara questions remains. Why are crevices and boulders measured by themselves? We're talking about crevices filled with water. Due to the fact that they're not fit for sowing. The crevices are not considered a field. The economy, this is also pertains to similar, it teaches us that the case of high boulders, which are also unsuitable for sowing, Shramina. Even less. So my answer is Hani Nagoi de Ara Mikru. These crevices are called the cracks in the ground. Shida de Ara and are called the spine of the ground. They're considered regular features of fields which typically have few pits of the ground. We learned in regards to the sale, I'm selling you a base cover of earth. Or if there were crevices 10 tefachim deep or boulders 10 tefachim high in the field, so in Dodin Imay they're not measured with it. The crevices or boulders now. Even if they're not filled with waters, nevertheless they're not included. My time. But what is the reason for the difference between the two halachas? Why in the case of a sale are crevices not considered part of the field even if they're not filled with water? Because a person who buys a field does not want to give his money for one field, yet it appears to him like 2 or 3 places. When purchasing a parcel of land, it's important to the purchaser that the land be one unit as to enable farming it without difficulty. Therefore, these areas of 10 tefachim are not measured as part of the field, regardless of whether or not they are filled with water. Having discussed the halachas, the Gemara says, what's the halach here with regarding to measuring a field to see if it fulfills the condition, which is the Tanai by one who is Mekadesh a woman, if it contains large crevices that are not filled with water. It says, do we compare it to hektish, or do we compare it to mecher? It says, it makes sense to hektish, because the husband can say to her, I will go to the trouble of sowing and bringing the produce from the lower or higher areas as well. Although the labor requires additional effort, he does possess a base core of land. Now, a new Mishnah, Rabbi Emir says, a famous thing called Tanai Shin Tanai B'nei Gad B'nei Reuven, any condition that's not doubled, which does not specify both the result of fulfilling the condition and the result of the condition remaining unfulfilled, which is, in other words, it has to be like Tanai Gad B'nei Reuven, and Tanai Shnemar V'Yemar Aleim, Im Yavru B'nei Gad B'nei Reuven. So what did Moshe Rabbeinu say? If you're going to pass over B'nei Gad, in other words, you'll pass over the Jordan with them, so then I'll give you Eretz Yisrael. And then Moshe says, and if you're not going to pass over, so then you shall receive a possession amongst you in the land of Canaan. So he made a Tanai Kofel, a double Tanai. The Mill says one cannot derive the requirement of conditions in general from that particular case. As with regards to the nullification, the condition of the children of Gad and Reuben, it was necessary to state the matter as why Shemalikin. Otherwise, the pasuk cannot specify both sides of the condition. It might have been thought it meant that they will not inherit even the land of Canaan. One might have thought that if the Shvatim of Gad and Reuben would not fulfill the condition, they would forfeit their rights to inherit anywhere. It's therefore necessary to specify that they would not lose their portion of Eretz Yisrael. So it's possible that with regards to a standard condition where there's no such misunderstanding is likely to take place, it's necessary to mention both sides. So the Gemara presenting a reasonable objection to the mayor. He apparently refuted the mayor's opinion entirely. How did the mayor answer? If you don't need a Tanai Kafel, let the pasuk just write that if you will not possess over the, you should write like this. If the Tanai Kafel is not, so you should write. But if they will not possess over, they shall receive a portion amongst you, which means mashma that they have a portion of the land. Beretz Canaan. The Tanai Kafel also must be a Tanai Kafel. If it wouldn't write Beretz Canaan, I would think Benechsa Pesechim is Eretz Gilad, Beretz Canaan will call later. But a Meir Gemara says Pesechim Kol Echad Yisleim Masha Pesechim amongst you means anywhere that you have taken possession, including the land of Canaan. Therefore, the land of Canaan is extra and serves to teach that the condition must be doubled. Tanya was talking about what's the mashal? The person was dividing up his property amongst his sons. Amar, he said, Pleni b'ni yiresh sada pleni. So my son, so and so, shall inherit such and such land. Upleni b'ni yiresh sada plenis. And my son, so and so, shall inherit such and such land. Pleni b'ni yiresh sada plenis. Pleni b'ni yitin masayim zuz yiresh sada plenis. V'im yitin yiresh mshar achav nechasim. So he says like this. Person who was dividing up his property amongst his sons and said, my son so-and-so shall inherit such and such land, and my son so-and-so shall inherit such and such land, and my son so-and-so shall give 200 dinars and inherit such and such field. If he does not give the money, he will inherit a part of the remainder of the property with his brothers. So, what causes the last brother to inherit part of the remainder of the other brothers? A father's double condition that causes him to inherit the man. It was therefore necessary for the father to state both sides and explain that it will happen if the third brother fails to give the money. Had the father not repeated the condition upon failing to give the 200 dinars, the son would not have received any portion of the property. But the marshal is not similar to the Mishnah. As there in the Mishnah teaches us, it might have been thought it meant that if they don't fulfill the condition, they will not inherit even the land of Canaan. And certainly not in the land of Gilad. So, Alma, what do you see from here? This apparently indicates that the double formation is also effective for them to inherit the land of Gilad. Otherwise, the children of Gilad and Reuben will not receive any part of Gilad either. And what does it say in the Brisa? We see from here that the double formulation is effective for the rest of the property, whereas he would have received a portion of the field linked to the condition in that case. According to this reasoning, the children of Gad and Reuben would not have been granted a portion of the land of Gilad even without the double formulation. The answer is Kasha the name that the mayor he's referring to a case before the mayor said to him that the pasuk could have simply said that shall receive a possession amongst you. That stage, Chanin and Gamliel maintained that if the two Shvatim did not fulfill the condition, they would not have inherited even in the land of Gilad, as indicating the use of the term even. Whereas in that case, referring to the mashal, it was taught after a mayor taught this, they should receive a possession. Now, Mela, according to the mayor, who requires who says you always need to have a Tanai Kafel, also makes sense. As we learned in Bereshis, that the Eibishter tells Cain, if you do well, you shall not be lifted. If you do well, shall it not be lifted? If you not do well, sin crouches by the door. Because you would think, or not for the double formulation, you would think that he was telling him, if you do well, shall you not receive reward, and if you do not do well, you will receive neither reward nor punishment. And therefore, it teaches us that Cain failed to do well, he will have been actively punished. According to him, when Avram instructed Eliezer, so then he says, then you'll be clear from my oath. But enter in your mind, in a case where the arrangement is satisfactory to her but not satisfactory for her family, she should bring her against her wishes. Kamash Malan therefore teaches us that the is not obligated to bring her against the family wishes. Now, if the woman is not willing to follow you, why do I need this case? So it's you would think that if it is satisfactory for them but not satisfactory for her, so nice about karcha, you should bring her against her wishes. Now the Gemara says, that the rejection of Hashem's statute warrants a curse. It says if you are willing and obedient, but if you refuse, so we see tonight couple. He says, you would say that if you are willing to receive good reward, but don't say that. Now, in connection with the pasuk from Yeshaya, the Gemara asks, what is the meaning of the phrase? So he says, Cherev tu'uklu, you shall be devoured by the sword. Amar Rava says the pasuk should be interpreted as if it states, you shall devour the sword, you shall eat food that harms the body like a sword. Milcha glalinasa, coarse grain, nama desara kusha, hard barley bread, and b'tzilin onions. The Amar Mar says, paspurni charev b'melech b'tzilim kashan guka charevis. He says dried bakery bread eaten with salt, onions harms the body like swords.